So what do I want you to remember? The biggest thing in this section, well, a lot of it is just plug and chug in your calculator, putting numbers in, raising it to a certain power, getting your value. All right, that's the first part of this. And then when you get down to the transformation part, you got to do it by hand. All right, you won't have a calculator on some of this, but you will on others. So what do you have to remember? You got to remember your exponential function looks like this. The parent function looks like this. All right, there's an asymptote right here where y equals 0. And this intersection point right here where it hits the y-axis is 0 and 1. Those are your key things that you have to kind of remember as you transform things, all right? So if I look at these two, and I know I did them in the video, but just for fun, let's deal with it. Now, when you look at it, don't worry too much about what the base of it is because the shape's going to stay the same. What you got to look at is what is happening to x. So if I look at this, that x has a -2. So what happened before in equations when x was affected? Do you remember? Left and right, and it was always opposite logic, right? Same rule applies here, it's just up in the exponent. So it's x -2, which would indicate it's going to move right 2 places, right? So I'm just going to make this note. It's going to move right 2, and what is this +1 going to do? Up 1. So then I think about my parent function up here, and this asymptote right here, if I move it, if I have to move the whole thing up and down, it has to move too, right? And these guys move in conjunction with one another. There's always that space between the asymptote and the point. So the first thing you want to do is move your asymptote, all right? I should do this. Move that asymptote. So here's my xy axis. I'm moving it up 1. So it used to be at 0. Now it's going to be over here at 1. All right. This distance right here is always a distance of 1 between the asymptote and that intersection point. Now, this one, in the parent function, it's at 0, 1, right? But we said here it has to move right 2. So it's going to be 2, 1. So it's going to go 1, 2. Actually, it's going to be a 2, right? Because it was already a 1. It was 0, 1, and I have to add 2, and I have to add 1. So that gives me 0, that gives me 2, 2, right? You follow what I did there? Okay. So that means my little point right here. And what does that point do? That's the point where it starts curving up. All right, so this is going to look like that. So when I grade your graphs, when you're doing them without a calculator, what I am looking for is the location of your new asymptote. So this is y equals 1. And I'm looking for this new value right here, if it got shifted at all. All right. It's always good to list out what you're trying to accomplish, because maybe you list it out correctly and you just don't get it graphed correctly. That's an opportunity for partial credit. Okay? So let's try this one. Let's look at this one. Now, don't let the 2 in the front mess you up. It's just a constant. It could have been written like this. E to the x minus 5 plus 2. They just put it in the front just to mess with your head. So it's still a growth function because e is greater than 1. What is the x minus 5 going to do to it? Right 5. Yep. So this is going to go right 5. And the plus 2? Up 2. So I'm going to take that original intersection point. I'm going to go right 5. And I'm going to go up 2. That's going to make my new point a 5 and a 3. Now, will my asymptote that's at 0 be changed? What'd you say? No. Is it moving up or down? The whole graph going to move up or down? Yeah, it is. So that asymptote has to move up or down too, right? That's what's getting shifted up or down. You with me? So if it was at 0 before, it just gets moved up to 2. So 1, 2, I'm going to shift And now that intersection point should be one above it, which is at 3, but it's over here at 5. So it's doing this business. So I have a y equals 2 as my asymptote, and my intersection point is at 5, 3. Tracking with me? That's as specific as I need you to get at this stage of the game. On your quizzes, when you graph them, those are the things I'm going to be looking for. Okie doke. Now, it didn't do domain and range, right? It didn't. I don't think it did in the video. Did it? I don't remember that.